course, is the podcast by millennial dads talking about their kids and gaming. Um, Welcome. It's been a while since we've been live and had a new episode. And let me just offer an apology for that. It's been kind of a crazy few weeks. Uh, Kraig and I have been trading off with different sicknesses. Our kids have been sick, then we were sick. Last week it was me. I had this horrible throat sickness. It hurt to talk, it hurt to swallow. Um, and so every week we've been planning to have a new podcast episode, and every week we have had to cancel. So I apologize to all of you for this. And of course, as you notice, Kraig is not here with me. It's just Josh. It's just me today, aka a Freudian trip. Here with you. Kraig unfortunately had another crazy busy weekend and couldn't make it. But I said, you know what? We need an episode in. And so we're doing another one of those weird, scary, Josh just talks into a camera for a while type of episodes. So bear with me if you tune in. I am live streaming this episode on Twitch, and I'm actually going to try something a little different this week. I'm going to try to interact with the chat a little bit more than we typically do. Typically, when we record these episodes, we do live stream them on Twitch, on my channel. So follow me at twitch.tv/a-Freudian-trip if you don't already, and you want to catch us live. But we often kind of save chat interaction towards the end of podcast. But today I'm going to try to mix it up a little bit. If we have an active chat, I'm going to try to interact a bit. But yeah, so let's get this thing underway. As far as life updates go, nothing too crazy on my end except for lots of illness, which has been pretty crappy. 2 weeks ago it was my baby. She was sick, poor thing. She's actually still congested, but it was worse. Wasn't sleeping well. And then last week, like I said, it was me and my wife. Actually, we both had the exact same sickness at the same time. Completely knocked us out for the weekend and a few days afterwards. It's going around out there. It is pretty bad. But now that we're all healthy, things have been better. The weather here is getting a little bit nicer, which means I can take my little daughter, who is now 9 months old. Pretty insane. She's 9 months old. On some walks, take her outside. Today she was actually kind of fussy, and so I found a new way to calm her down when she's really upset, which is to throw on a record. Yes, I said record because I have a turntable, and I listen to vinyl records because apparently I'm even older than I look. Anyway, so I throw on a record and then I dance with her. Basically, I hold her and dance with her, and that, like, whenever she's extra fussy, that always ends up calming her down, and she'll just like zone out and just lay there as I hold her and dance with her. And so the only problem is that it totally wears out my arms. I'm not like a super buff guy. I kind of have skinny arms, and so my arms are just like dead right now because I had to hold her so much today. But it worked, and so it's kind of fun. I'll admit I kind of like it, but it always tires me out. So that's what I did today. I'm going to talk about the games that I've been playing. Usually, again, I'm going to mix it up a little bit today. Usually we save the what have you been playing this week for the end of the episode, but I'm going to start with it this week, tonight. So I've been playing a lot of Apex Legends, which is actually going to be part of our main topic in just a few minutes. But I've been playing it a lot, been really liking it, except that I've been playing on PC because I prefer to play it on PC. I played it on Xbox too, but man, games like that, they just feel so much better on PC. I don't know if anyone in chat or listening to this later on YouTube can relate, if anyone has like a PC and a console. But first-person shooters tend to just feel so much cleaner and more fun to play on PC. I love the Xbox. I love console. You know, I played a ton of Call of Duty and a ton of Halo on the Xbox, and I have loved doing it. but I don't know. Some games like Apex, it just feels better on PC. I really enjoy playing it on PC, so that's what I've been doing. The problem is that I've been having horrible, horrible crashes. Um, my my like PC will crash all the, or not my PC, the game will crash all the time on my PC, and it's been like almost every other game for a while, and so that's been pretty crappy. And I know it's a problem that's been going around for a lot of people. I did like a ton of troubleshooting. Like I'm just like Google searching like a maniac, looking. Like, am I going? Like, is there any way to fix this? People are like throwing out all these ideas. Change this change or change this setting. Change this setting. Um, like so many random, like people don't actually know what works. People are just guessing. And then like if someone manages to stop the crashes, then they just like post everything they did, and then everyone else tries that, and it'll work for some people and not work for others. It's kind of a mess out there. Apex needs to patch it, or AMD does, because I use an AMD card. I've heard it's better for NVIDIA users. Um, but anyway, so I tried a bunch of new settings. I think I might have fixed it. I've played like 4 or 5 games now without it crashing, and so fingers crossed that's the case. But man, Apex Legends is such a fun game. If you haven't tried it yet, I think I talked about this last time. I think we talked about this in the last episode, but still, if you haven't tried it yet, please give it a try. Even if you're like, oh, I don't like battle royales. I wasn't a huge fan of battle royales either. Like I've played all the famous battle royales, and yeah, I never really got into either of them or any of them that much. But Apex, I'm pretty hooked with, and so my shot on PC is still a little bad, but it's getting a little better. Starting to get the hang of it. So I'm playing a lot of that. If you'd like to play with me, add me on Origin, a Freudian trip, same thing. Um, the other game I've been playing is Valkyrie Chronicles 4. This is on the Nintendo Switch, and this game came out I think last September. So I'm late to the party. Although I don't know if there really was a party about this game. But it went on. It was like 50% off recently, so I picked it up. And so far, I've actually been really enjoying it. It's an interesting, like, I don't even know if I can call it an RPG. It's a tactics game, and it reminds me a lot of like a mix between XCOM and Fire Emblem. Okay, so like the premise is that like you're this commander in this war, right? And there's like a plot around the war or whatever, but you've got your, so all these soldiers that are under you that you command, but they're all actual characters in the story. And they all have personalities, and they all have strengths and weaknesses, and also like relationships with each other, that they will build that like increases their effectiveness in battle. But the way that the game actually plays out is you get this top-down view of the battlefield, which again, very Fire Emblem-esque. Your soldiers, you get to choose which soldiers you want to bring in to the battle, exactly like Fire Emblem. And the soldiers are actual characters that you might care about, again like Fire Emblem. They can die and then just be dead for the rest of the campaign, also like Fire Emblem. So there really are a lot of parallels here. But then the way that the battle actually plays out is when you choose a soldier that you want to control, and it switches from the top down view to a third person perspective behind the soldier, and then you actually control the soldier. So you move the soldier where you want them to go, you tell them where they want to shoot. It's like a, yeah, I guess I should say, it's a, when I say war, it's not like a medieval combat. It's actual more modern, kind of modern combat. It's like, it's a fantasy game, but it's kind of like World War II type of tech, I guess, as far as the weaponry. So there's some tanks, and of course guns, but they're older models of guns, right? Um, and then you choose where you want them to fire, and then there'll be like the statistical thing will come into play, right? Where how close you are to the soldier you're firing on will depend on how accurate you are. And different soldiers have different, well, they have different weapons with different accuracy ranges. or range and accuracies. And so, like, how many hits you get on the soldier, whether or not you down them, that kind of stuff. There can be a little bit of chance, but there's a lot of tactics involved, and I've been enjoying it so far. Actually, I will say so far the story and like plot and character development, there's a lot to be lacking there, which is kind of disappointing. Um, Again, I'm comparing a lot to Fire Emblem. I found that Fire Emblem games tend to have pretty decent plot and character development. This has been lacking so far. Now I've still got a ways to go, so maybe the story will get better. But I've been pretty disappointed with that part of the game. But the actual battles are pretty cool, and the victory conditions change too with each battle. Like one, I had to sneak around and mark out tanks for artillery to destroy later in the game. And then once all the tanks were destroyed, I had to like the victory conditions changed, and then I had to like route the rest of the troops. There was another one where I scouted with one party. They finished their scouting mission, but then they got ambushed, and so I had to have them hold out while another like rescue. While I kind of like had a rescue mission with some other soldiers going on at the same time and like controlling them. Uh, Pretty cool. So they kind of mix up the battle scenarios and the victory conditions with each battle in some interesting ways. And of course, each battle is in a totally new environment with yeah, just new different hazards or terrain that kind of switches up your tactics and like which types of soldiers do I want to bring in more snipers because it seems like an open map, or do I need to bring in more like heavy troopers for these tight alleyways, stuff like that. So I've been enjoying it. It's been pretty good. Look who it is. It is Kraig himself in the chat. What's up, man? Um, he's crashing the solo cast. Oh, dude, do you want to join? It looks like Kraig is. I thought this was gonna be a solo cast, but it might not be a solo cast. Let's see if we can just get Kraig in here. Welcome, man. How's it going?
I'm so excited. Oh, I'm so tired.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised you're still awake,
I'm
man.
honestly exhausted. But I was like, you know what? It's been how long? We need to do this.
Yeah,
I need to do
I
this.
know.
I need to get up in here.
I know. I had the same thought. I was like, I'm pretty tired, but we haven't had a new episode in like forever. And
Yeah.
so I'm just gonna start this thing, and it's awesome that you were able to join, man. So give me the update. How's life been? Pretty crazy, I'm guessing.
Christ on a cracker. So, okay. So for our viewers who don't know, I live in my in-laws garage. It's a largish garage, and we've renovated it into basically a studio apartment. So we have a nice big bedroom. We had a really large living space actually, which was far too large for a living space for a studio apartment. And so what we decided to do was, because our first child is 3 now, and it's about time that he had his own bedroom.
Mm.
So we decided to just go ahead and build a bedroom in this giant waste of space that we had, and we undertook that this weekend.
Oof.
Started on Friday. We made the frame, yeah, and I did everything too. I had help from my father-in-law because he's done construction and stuff before. But like, we built the frame, we sheetrocked, we mudded, we painted, and my house is an absolute
Oh
nightmare of
yeah.
a wreck right now, and it's stressing me out. But we're so close. All we have to do is like trim the floors and the doors and the windows
Yeah.
and the ceiling,
Yeah. Wow.
and we're done basically. But he's got a room. I built his bed today in between
Nice.
church services that I was doing worship at, and I'm just like, oh god, today was just nonstop.
Yeah. You
And
must be beat.
until I stopped to see what Freud was doing, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm ditching you, honey. Bye. I'm gonna go
rip
do a
rip your
podcast right
wife.
now. She's like, I'm too tired for this. I'm going to bed. Good night. I'm like,
Oh
good night.
man.
So yeah, we've been doing that, and I feel like I must be one of the few people in the world to have the privilege of doing construction in a house with a 3-year-old.
Hmm.
and it presents some interesting challenges because all of a sudden our nice safe little studio apartment became a zone of
Yeah.
death
Oh my
for
gosh.
this little 3-year-old who just wants to get into everything that can kill
Yep.
him. There's a wobbly cat tree sitting in the middle of the room now. Yeah, let's go climb up that, maybe fall and break our
Right.
neck. Just everything, absolutely everything.
Kids
Kid
don't
is to
care.
be
Kids
all
have
over it. No,
no sense of
picks up a
danger.
box cutter, and I'm like, no.
Yep.
And he doesn't listen to me. He doesn't listen very good.
Mm.
Emotional cues he doesn't quite get yet. So like, or he might be starting to get them, but usually I'm like, drop it. Don't do that. And he's like, no, I'm gonna keep playing with it. But for some reason it came through because he picked up a box cutter and it was like, kill no. And he was just like, okay, sorry.
It was like scared him enough to.
Which is weird. Well, I don't know because I can't scare this kid.
Huh.
Instead, what it does, like if I do that kind of reaction to
Yeah.
him most of the time, that like triggers a
Huh.
ooh, let's play with
Yeah.
this kind of thing instead of a oh god, what am I touching kind of thing. And so that was nice. I'm like, at least it happened for the important
Right.
thing.
Yeah. Maybe there was like
Box cutter.
something, some kind of fear in your voice that like finally
Yeah,
like registered with him.
it must there must have
Yeah.
been, but yeah, I was just this whole weekend has just been horrible
Jeez, man. I feel for
and
you.
super. My back hurts, my legs hurt, everything hurts.
Yeah.
Sheetrock is
Yeah.
heavy. Did you know
I
that?
have carried
Do you know sheetrock is heavy?
sheetrock. I can say it.
Sheetrock.
And yes,
Yeah.
it is extremely heavy. Yeah.
I didn't know how heavy sheetrock was. I feel like I've expanded myself this weekend, which is great. But
Right. Right.
oh,
Yeah. Painful.
tired.
Painful. Well, have you?
I got my workout in this
I
weekend
bet.
though.
Yeah. Don't need to hit the gym today, huh?
No.
Um. Well, it sounds like you've been extremely busy. I'm wondering, have you had any time to play games? Because we kind of, I think, as you caught, we kind of
Yes,
skipped
I
that part
have.
up. Yeah. What have you played?
I've been playing because oh, that's right. It's been like 3 weeks since we've had a
Yeah,
podcast.
man.
So news on my front, I got a
That's
Switch.
right. I heard about this.
Thanks. Yeah, I got a Switch because of uh tax return. Our tax return was nice and big, and we had a little money left over. So I'm like, I'm gonna get a Switch
That's
because,
awesome.
duh, of course. And so I've been hammering away at Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.
Yeah.
It's a long name. Yeah. And so yeah, every free moment where I'm like, I need to sit down, I've just been playing Pokemon, and it's been very nice and relaxing. Pokemon is
Isn't it
always
so
such a
relaxing?
nice, relaxing game.
I agree. That's like like if I need a chill game, like I'm just gonna chill and unwind. Like Pokemon is such a good go-to. I'm the exact same way.
And it's got weirdly insane replayability.
Hmm.
Like
Well, yeah. If you
like
want to
I'm okay,
grind, if
so
you want to level up, or if you want
yeah.
to like try to fill out your Pokédex, like there's so much. There's so much to keep you playing.
So I actually think this particular iteration above any other one, like I beat the Elite Four, and my Pokédex was like like I've seen
Okay.
148 of
Yeah.
them, and have like 90 or something like that, and I was like, holy cow, that's the closest I've ever been to having a complete Pokédex like before right after beating the
Yeah.
game. I'm like, this is gonna be Baby Town Frolics to complete this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and then I found out what you need to do to face Red, and I was like, oh, that's less fun. I guess I'll catch all 150 Pokemon first, then I'll go try and fight Red.
Yeah.
But then once I beat Red, there's no more end game
You've done it.
content. But I'm still gonna replay that game.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a day like in several months or a year away. I'm gonna be like, it's time to run through Pokemon again. Let's do it.
Although if you wait for a year, you might be playing a very
Oh yeah,
different Pokemon game.
that's right.
Yeah.
Sword and Shield
And
I'm
gun.
excited.
You saw it. Did you see that meme that like a Mexican
I did see
newspaper
the meme,
actually
yeah.
picked up? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, so hilarious. But
Oh,
yeah, that looks
it's
pretty
so
hype.
good.
I'm excited about that game.
The memes coming out of Sword and Shield are great. I love because they're it's supposed to be like medieval England kind of looking
Hmm.
thing, and people are like, that girl is Scottish, Lass is
Right.
Scottish, and the Scottish Twitter memes coming out of
Oh.
that have been so
Can you
good.
imagine
I'm
if
like,
like
oh
she
hi,
actually
what's
had a
your name?
Scottish accent in the game? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I yeah. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm so hyped for you to have a Switch. We can talk about all
Me
the
too.
Switch games. I know I talked about how much I loved Pokemon Let's Go a number of episodes back, and so it's super cool that you get to
Yeah,
play
you
through it
did.
now. Yeah.
And like going back to, I know I had a couple like criticisms. I was like, these are my not criticisms, concerns. I had concerns for the
Uh-huh.
game. Um, None of those concerns are impactful.
Yeah.
They don't impact play very much. Catching Pokemon, like the worst thing about, I think the worst thing about these
Mm-hmm.
games is how little XP you actually get from the things that you can do, or that you
Yeah.
do. Battling, like it's honestly really hard to power
Right. The
level.
grinding,
I
the
was
power, the leveling. Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
I was keeping pace with the gyms,
Mm-hmm.
which is never, ever, ever how I ever play a Pokemon game. I am always
Mm-hmm.
overpowered. I'm always over leveled by at least 10 before I even touch a gym.
Yeah.
And I could not do that in this game. I was keeping pace, and I was like, ooh, there was a couple gym battles where I was like, this is close. Am I gonna do this on my first
Yeah.
try? I don't want to restart,
Yeah.
but I did it. So
That's awesome.
yes, yeah.
Um, Sweet. Well, I'm super hyped for you because I think I heard that Zelda Breath of the Wild is next on your
Zelda,
list.
yep.
That
Breath of the
I
Wild is
am
next up on the
I'm
docket,
dying to
but
talk about that once you start playing it.
it's got a little bit of competition right now.
What? What is the
And
competition?
yeah, that's people are gonna hate me for saying this too.
Oh
I
no.
almost hate
Oh
myself a
no.
little
What
bit
are
for
you gonna
saying it.
say?
I'm coming back to Destiny
Oh no.
after like a 3 month hiatus from it because I didn't have the season pass before,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got it again
Uh,
because of tax season.
yeah, yeah.
And season of the Gambit, or season of the Drifter just came out, and I have been binging lore that they've been putting out, and I'm just
I'm
like,
guessing you
oh
watch
my god, this
My
is
Name is Bife.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
Bife is my
yeah.
favorite. Love
If
Bife.
you play Destiny or are interested in lore, I swear I can talk. In lore, the lore of Destiny at all, Google or get on YouTube and find My Name is Bife. That's his
Yeah,
YouTube name. He puts out these amazing lore videos, which you kind of have to watch if you want to understand the lore of Destiny, because as we all
yeah, a
know,
bit.
Destiny is horrible with storytelling, especially with its deeper lore. But he does such a good job of breaking it all down and presenting it to you that like
Yeah,
I've binged. It's been a while since I've watched his videos, but for a while I would just keep binging them because he's really good, and the lore is actually really interesting of Destiny. It's one of the things that's always driven me crazy about Destiny, is that the lore is actually really good. They just don't do a great job of like having it play out and
presenting it.
present in like an
Yeah,
accessible way for the players.
yeah. It's really hard in Destiny because you get lore in bits and pieces, and almost
Yeah, it's
never
all
are they
broken
in
up.
order that you get them. So then, like, you can't really sit there and read through lore entries until you've got all of them for an entire book or
Yeah.
something. Biff bypasses that because he gets all of
Hmm.
it, and then he's got his production has also
Oh yeah.
like increased, skyrocketed. If you haven't yet, go watch I think it's the story of the last word in Thorn.
Okay.
And it is, oh, it's so good because he gets other YouTubers to do voices for some of the lore
Oh no
entries,
way.
because most of those lore entries are actually either a story being told by somebody or a conversation being
Hmm.
had that's being logged by a ghost. And so he has other people voicing the actors, and then, or the
Right.
people, and then he's got some concept or fan art of those specific situations up on the screen, kind of give you some context for what's going on.
Hmm.
And it is so
That's
good.
awesome.
It's like I've never seen Destiny lore come more alive
Yeah.
before, which is crazy because it's like it's really, really actually a very little, little thing to do, realistically. But he does such a good job of it, and I don't think anybody's really made that effort to make the lore of Destiny become an actual consumable entertainment
Yeah.
product yet. And it's the closest thing so far that I've seen, at least. And I could be wrong on that. If that exists, please let me know. I want it.
No, he's
But
so
it's so
good.
good.
He's excellent. Great recommendation for a YouTuber to subscribe to and follow if you love Destiny at all, which we do. We both do. Although, yeah, we've both been on a hiatus.
Yeah.
Me a little bit more so than you, but I know we both played when Forsaken came out in last
Yep.
September, and then I don't have the season pass either, and you didn't until just recently. It sounds like so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may not even be worth it to get, like, if you don't have it yet, it may to get until the next content drop, because from what I've heard, a lot of the new content is literally just Gambit stuff,
Mm.
and like, unless you're like a Gambit
Uh
addict.
huh.
Yeah. And I think I'm not even sure you need no, there's a new game mode for Gambit that you do need the season pass to
Yeah.
play, but like, I haven't even played it yet, and I'm not sure how much I want to play
Hmm.
it, especially after what I've been reading in the lore. I'm just sort of like, don't want to touch Gambit at all right now.
Yeah.
Not sure. I've never had an affinity for the Drifter personally. I don't like the way he talks to me.
Yeah, the Drifter is kind of a sketch character.
Disrespectful little person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Avoid bad words on this podcast.
um. Okay. Well, why don't we talk about the main topic? I guess I'm just going to throw this at you, although it is something we talked about before,
Go for it.
which
I'm down.
is uh it's we're gonna start with a story, and it's gonna kind of broaden a little bit, but we're gonna start by talking about Apex Legends and diversity. And so Apex Legends, we have both talked about this before. Now this is
Yeah.
you're laughing because this is a
I'm laughing. Well, I'm laughing because I just read an article about, or kind of an article. Did you see that in our chat? I don't know. I was
I
talking to
think so.
James about it the other. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
Continue.
well this is a topic that a lot of people might have opinions on. Um,
Yeah.
So we've talked about Apex Legends quite a bit, how much we love it. One thing I don't think we've talked about is how diverse their character cast is. And so Apex Legends is a class-based game, which means that every game you have to choose a, I guess, class, character class. I don't know. It's kind of like Overwatch,
What are they
where
called? Heroes, champions? I don't remember what.
yeah, I
Everyone
get
plays
champions, I
phases
guess, is maybe what
different.
they
Just
call
like,
it.
I don't know.
But
Yeah.
in any case, it's like Overwatch where there's a distinct cast of characters and each character has very distinct abilities. Um, but the cast of characters that the game is launched with is incredibly diverse. All different shades of skin, um, gender, character design. I mean, there's just all, it's just kind of, it's just a very diverse cast, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
But this immediately on launch kind of sparked some, I guess you would say, controversy, because some people took issue that the cast was too diverse, right? That this is the result of SJWs infiltrating our media and forcing Respawn, who developed Apex Legends, to force these kind of diverse characters upon us. This narrative got much worse when Respawn revealed that one of the characters is gay or bisexual, could be bisexual, but at least gay, or at least bisexual, I guess, could be gay. And that another one of the characters wears like a mask and like really heavy clothing at all times, and the voice even comes through like a voice modulator kind of thing. They revealed that that character is gender non-binary. All right, so it doesn't really go either way when it comes to gender, which actually kind of makes sense to me given the character's design. Like their gender is I mean, you never see it and wouldn't know it. But in any case, people flipped out. Okay, there have been lots of articles and responses to these articles about diversity in Apex, and people have been, I've seen it unfortunately a lot on the internet. People have been flipping out about the issue of diversity being forced into video games. All right, the narrative is that these diverse characters, like having a gay male character, that this diversity is there for no reason, that it is forced upon the players, and that the reason it's being forced upon the players is to appease the SJWs. When I say SJW, I mean social justice warrior. In case you're not familiar with that term, if you're not familiar with that term, I envy you. But what that basically stands for is there's this idea that there's all these people out there who are overreacting and trying to like protect diverse people that don't need protection and force diversity where it doesn't belong or isn't needed or whatever, and they're always like screaming about racism, and so they've been dubbed these social justice warriors as like a negative term. It's also kind of weird because like if I was gonna fight for something, social justice seems like a good thing to fight for, but anyway, it's supposed to be a derogatory term that denotes, that they're these overreactors that are actually making things worse instead of better. And I just for some context, I want to read the actual character blurb that people are like freaking out about when it comes to having a gay character. So the character's name is Gibraltar. He is a tank character, male, and he just has a short like character description about his backstory. Here it is. Gibraltar is a gentle giant with a wild side. The son of two SARS volunteers, he has always been skilled at getting others out of dangerous situations that are common in the Outlands. However, he only began to understand the value of protecting others when he and his boyfriend stole his father's motorcycle, took it on a joyride, and got trapped by a deadly mudslide. His parents saved them, and his father lost an arm in the process. Gibraltar has never forgotten that sacrifice and has devoted his life to helping those in need. That's it. That's just a little description about his backstory. And that one little part about him having a boyfriend has gotten really latched onto. I know. Pretty much. So there, yeah, I guess I'm repeating myself a little bit. But there's been a lot of articles about the diverse cast of Apex and a lot of reactions to it. Kraig, my question for you is there a diversity problem when it comes to Apex Legends and gaming and media in general? Is this
Do people think Sorry,
just like is there something to this narrative that diversity, I actually hate that I'm asking the question, but I guess I have to, that diversity is being forced into these games or media, and that it doesn't belong or shouldn't be there?
So do people get upset about uppity? Actually, I'm just gonna use
Mm-hmm.
that word. Do people get uppity about this when it comes to Overwatch too?
Yeah, there's definitely been some
Finger
reactions
pointing
to
at Overwatch
Overwatch.
as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure if we're gonna be nasty about all of this, that we're at least spreading the love. Obviously, I'm giving away my opinion here, but I actually it is a little more nuanced than that. We live in a diverse world, and there are lots of people of different age, shape, colors, genders, and sexualities who make video games
And play video
I
games.
don't think it's and play video games. I don't think it's untoward to allow them to be represented as well. Apex was something that was developed in secret essentially for years. We don't really know. Or it was reused assets and stuff from Titanfall 3 and made into something. We don't know. I don't know if we know how exactly that worked out, but nobody was aware of its development for a long time. So to say that social justice warriors were forcing Apex developers Respawn to inject diversity into them is ridiculous on the face of
Yeah.
it. Furthermore, a lot of these people, I guarantee them, do not understand the source material, Titanfall, and its world or universe,
Right.
because the universe of Titanfall is extremely diverse. There are lots of different peoples from lots of different places and backgrounds who exist in that universe, just like ours. And I think it's completely fair to want to utilize some of those different backgrounds for Legends because they make interesting stories. A lot of them don't even come from Earth. A lot of them come from colonies that are beset in a war between, the interstellar government and, or not government, but basically a private military corporation and the frontier, which is just people banding together to try and fight this PMC. So if you don't understand, the source material, you shouldn't be talking about, oh, they're forcing diversity on us.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I think you sound when you say, if you say something like
Yeah.
that.
Well, and can I
Now,
address, because you
yeah,
actually brought up something interesting, and then I'm going to throw it back to you, but that this is a common argument that is made, right? Is that again, companies like Respawn um, are forcing this stuff in to appease the SJWs, right? And you brought up the point, how could that even be the case? This was developed in secret, which is a good point. But I would take it a step further and just say that that argument, because I do see that argument used a lot. I did a little bit of research. I wanted to try to understand the anti SJW side before we talked about it. I ventured onto the forums where people were making all these anti SJW posts. Quite risky, I know, but I did it. And this is a common argument, which is that that developers and publishers are doing this to appease the SJW like tweeters, I guess, which that argument in and of itself is ridiculous. What
yeah,
what what Respawn and these other game developers, and even, I'll go as far as say movie developers, TV show producers, what they care about is their bottom line every single time. Okay? They are not going to shoehorn in something just to appease a few people on the internet if they're going to risk money by doing that. And so
yep,
that never happens. People are never changing their games to appease a few SJWs. They're doing whatever they're doing because one, it matters to them, and two, they're hoping to make a lot of money off of it.
yep,
Which means that again, either every time this happens, and I'm being a little, maybe I'm being a little absolutist about this, but I feel pretty strongly about it. Again, the makers, like you brought up, the makers of the game might be diverse themselves, and so that comes out in the games they make, or they're banking on the audience wanting a more diverse cast or story, and they're probably right, unless the game
yeah,
completely tanks. But that could be for a lot of other reasons than like there's a gay character in it, and so yeah, I just wanted to like, because that argument is used a lot. I
yeah.
wanted to like knock that out right now. It's a ridiculous argument on its head. But yeah, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's fine. I feel like we live in a time of a vocal minority,
Oh, totally.
just in a lot of things, where the majority actually just doesn't really say much because they're not happy per se, but content with what things are where they're
Mm-hmm.
at in certain respects of life. Like, oh, Apex is a diverse cast, and oh my gosh, there's somebody who actually kind of represents me. Cool, or yeah,
Mm-hmm.
represents me. Cool, 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 cool. I can go play that person. I'm done playing this person. I'm going to play for team comp because this is a there's strategical aspect to this game. And when it comes to playing the game, the lore doesn't really matter. So, I don't know. I'm having a harder time now. When I've been thinking about and reading these kinds of articles, uh, dealing with the vocal minority, because on one hand it's like when you respond to these people you give them a bigger
Yeah.
bass or louder voice. On top of that, you're verifying something they're saying by feeling the need to respond to it, and so it's sort of like but at the same time it's like you're being really stupid and you're being really loud about it.
Yeah.
Can you not?
You bring up like it. Yeah,
uh,
you're bringing up a really good point. It's something that I go back and forth with as well, right? It's like you see something, um, mostly it's usually on the internet, right? But you see something that's really toxic, really negative, really bigoted, whatever, and there's a part of you that's like, you got to respond to this, right? You can't just let this go or you can't just let this go and not say anything because it's so wrong, it's so bad. There's this party that like of course wants to fight against it, but then exactly what we said, like, do we want to give this an audience? Even do we want to like elevate this voice at all, or is the best way to fight it to try to drown it with silence, essentially? um,
yeah,
and I actually think that's a really interesting debate that I don't think has a good answer, because if that silent majority is always silent, then that means the only people who are talking
it's
are those vocal minorities, right?
It's true, and I think that is a big part of an issue that we have in this society,
Mm-hmm.
in our culture. We live in a society. Sorry, too much Reddit. uh, yeah, in our I think that is an issue in our culture. If we're content, we don't talk, and or we think that our voice doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
and that there's nobody else who thinks like us.
Or we just want to
And
avoid all the BS, right? I've
or
been
yeah, or
there.
we're just I feel like there's also that's also another aspect of it. I think our generation, millennials, are actually really
Yeah,
non-confrontational, which is ironic given the internet.
right.
And I think the reputation that a few people have garnered, I think a majority of millennials are very
I would agree with
non-confrontational.
that,
They're just sort of
actually.
like, I don't really want to fight this. This is really dumb. In fact, like personally, it's been a while since I felt like what I'm gonna call like feisty. Like I'm gonna go pick a fight with somebody or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, because that's just not frequent. Where I'm like, I don't have the time, energy, or emotional bandwidth to have an argument about something inane, stupid, or about something I know I'm not going to change your mind
Yeah.
about. I have far too much to do. I have far too much to think about. And I can't do that right now. And the other day, I actually had enough energy. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna pick a little fight in this gaming community that I'm part of on
Oh.
Facebook. And it was fine. It worked great. I had all my arguments kind of. That was the other thing too. Like I like to try and prepare
Mm-hmm.
arguments if I know I'm going to get into a verbal disagreement with somebody, so that I'm not just like waving my dick around being like, I've got an
Right,
opinion.
right. It's good to have a little
um
research to back yourself up.
yeah, I mean, don't be stupid.
Right.
And anyways, I don't even remember where I was going with that.
Yeah. Well, the
um
non-confrontational thing. I do
but
think
I
there's a
guess, so
lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, I don't get into fights. See somebody say something inflammatory, I'm like, I'm not dealing with that right now. I feel like there's a lot of people like that as
There
well.
is. I mean, I'm
um
I'm like that half the time, and so like I
yeah,
I've gone through different periods of my life. There's been some times when I've been like I'm down to argue about anything. Other times when I'm like I don't have. Yeah, exactly what you said. I don't have the emotional energy or the like patience or like time to like do this, so I'm just not going to go there at all. So I've gone back and forth at different
and
points.
especially being a dad and everything, it
Oh yeah.
takes it takes a lot of energy,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, physically, and you're just like, I don't got time for this
It's
BS.
true.
This is stupid.
It's
It's
true.
not worth.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, but I do think that is an issue that we do need to be a little more vocal when it comes to things that we see as
Mm-hmm.
important. But at the same time, we need to figure out how to do it without being dismissive of other opinions, and while also maintaining, let's say, a decorum
Yeah.
when it comes to discussion, and so that we're not just screaming at each other, because nobody's opinion gets heard and nobody changes their mind in those cases. uh I'm of the opinion that everybody should always go take a philosophy class so that they understand how to argue and discuss things to begin with,
Yeah.
in a manner that is befitting of
Mm-hmm.
adults. And that's how we should be discussing certain things and things that are of importance. Otherwise, honestly, I could care less.
There's
I
a
could
lot
really
of
care less if you're butthurt about there being a Maori guy in Apex. Go
right.
stuff
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
Go pee in the wind. I don't care. I'm so sorry you're upset that somebody's gay.
Yeah. I mean, like
You know,
that's
go scream it in your church or something. I don't know.
it is kind of crazy. Like yeah, scream in your church. Um. Yeah. I mean, so the thing that like I'll be honest. Like, there's a one of the reasons why I picked this topic is I mean I was seeing quite a bit of it for a while. Especially right when Apex launched, but the I'll admit there's something that personally has always bothered me about the anti SJW crowd. Um,
Yeah.
because one, I don't think SJWs are a real problem. I will grant for sure that there is a loud minority, like you said, of people that maybe I guess what I would say is they cry wolf way too much, right?
Yeah.
Calling everything racist or everything sexist, and it exactly it has that exact effect of just crying wolf too much, where you're saying it so much it starts to lose its meaning,
Yeah.
and you do just start to look like this just really mad person looking for ways to maybe get upset, right? um,
Yeah.
and so I'm not condoning that. Um,
No.
but like,
But then there's another aspect of this where like people take that and then caricaturize it and then apply it to anything they disagree.
yeah, I actually think like again, I'm not like excusing that behavior, but that's also about as far as that behavior goes. Like it doesn't really have, to my knowledge, I don't think it has really much of an impact on the world otherwise. But the response to it is actually more worrying to me because
I agree.
because there is an anti SJW crowd, right? That's often a part of like the Gamergate crowd that will dox people, they will make death threats to people over this kind of thing, and they do exactly what you said. They over apply it to everything. And what the net effect of that is that they are actively fighting against diversity, right? That
Yep.
is the net effect of the anti SJW crowd. Is anytime there's diversity in any kind of media that they don't like or want or think belongs, which even like there's so much wrong with saying it doesn't belong there. But
Yeah.
um whenever they see that, they react to it, they blame it on the SJWs, and essentially the argument you are making is that the diversity should not be there and that it was forced in. There is such a huge problem with that. And again, when I did like my forum research, these are the kinds of ideas that came up. Like I want to read just a few quotes. Like there was one person said, um, we have movies and shows that have to shoehorn in LGBT characters. Again, the idea that if an LGBT character is in there, it must be because they were shoehorned in,
Yeah.
which implies that the natural, normal, okay way is non LGBTQ characters.
Yep.
That's how it should be until this was shoehorned in. For example, I don't watch this show, I'll be honest, but they said, for example, the Fox Gotham show made Penguin gay for no reason. I don't even know if that's true. I don't know if they made him gay or not.
I don't know if that's true either.
But the
I
the part that made me that I have a problem with again is that they made him gay for no reason. Like again, if they made him straight, that would be like normal and acceptable. But the fact that he's gay, that there's no reason for him to be gay, that's like there's no reason for someone to be different than you. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't work. You can't make that argument. Um, Another person, and this again, this is such there's such a huge underlying issue with these types of arguments. Um, said we should be focused on the quality of the media itself, and diversity not even really a factor unless it matters for the story. Like again, do you hear what you're implying? That diversity should
Yeah.
only be there if it matters for the story. I don't even know what would the story be like for it to matter.
Well, and that's such a subjective
Oh, it's
matter.
sort of subjective.
Okay, uh Last of Us 2 is not even out yet,
Right.
but we know for a fact that Ellie is at the very
Right.
least
Right.
bi, likely lesbian, and that is that's probably a very integral part of her
Mm-hmm.
character, for all we know. Like for whoever's writing it, it seems obvious that from the beginning they were kind of like, we're gonna have them take this direction as an adult. This is something that they've gone
This is
through
who she
more of their
is.
life
Yeah,
with.
that's her character.
This is a post-apocalyptic thing. Like we're seeing somebody grow
Uh
up
huh.
as consequences of what happened in a previous game. This is a consequential thing. This is something that's happened. There is a reason for it. But you could still say, oh, this doesn't add anything to the story. There's no point to this. Like, that's such a subjective thing. You can't say that. The only person who can say whether something is beneficial or necessary to a story is the person who wrote it.
Right.
And I will agree, because there has been a couple instances in the past, I know, where people have been like, you guys need to add a gay character in it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Right. There is that
we
vocal
have a
minority crowd,
plan.
right?
We have a plan for this story, and unfortunately, none of the characters are gay. But we've already got everything planned out. We can't just that would be shoehorning it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone has written a story and it's art, it's true to themselves. They're talking, they're writing something out of themselves, and it's not very diverse because that's just where they're kind of from. And then you trying to inject that into that. That's one thing. You cannot prove that happens for any new media unless a writer comes out and is like, yeah, we were trying to write the story and our publisher was like, make it more diverse. No stories like that have ever happened. None of them have ever come out, not that I've ever seen. If I'm wrong,
Right.
put
Well,
it
I
in
mean,
the
I guess what you're
comments. We'll
saying is
look,
that
we'll
even if
talk.
that did
But
happen, like we wouldn't know, right? Like,
we would, yeah,
so
exactly.
like
For new media, you wouldn't know if that did happen. If you did, then there's something to talk about. But we don't, so there isn't anything to talk about. That's not shoehorning it when the writers include it specifically because they think it's important to the story. The only person whose opinion matters about what's important to that story is the person who's writing it. You are a consumer of that story, and if you don't like it, go watch, read, play something else.
Yeah.
That is not the writer's job. The writer's job is to tell a story that they want to tell you. And if you don't, yeah, I'm just gonna repeat myself.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, like, I mean, like, I have a hard time even with the idea that of like that it's possible that some like video game, for example, or movie, like that they had this like perfect, great story that they wanted to tell, and then some publisher came in and was, or and was like, you got to make it more diverse, and so they like all of a sudden made these characters like black and gay and all this stuff to be more diverse. And then as a result, the whole story kind of like broke apart and the whole plot broke apart and it ended up being like this trash story and game because of these diverse characters being forced in. Like I have a hard time with that premise just to begin with.
Yeah.
Like even again, like we talked about, it's hard to know if like for sure if like whether or not it's ever happened, if like, oh, like diversity, like you got to put more diversity in, like if that's happened in like media development. But even
Like I'm sure it's happened
right,
somewhere. I
you'd
know
be
I feel like there was a couple examples from like comic
mhm,
adaptation where they've done that before, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. In games, there's none that I can think of. Specifically in
mhm,
games, this is a gaming
right.
podcast. So cuz I was just thinking about that. I'm like I'm pretty sure there was a couple comic adaptations that did that.
Yeah, I can't say for
We're going
sure
to
that
put that
it's
in the
never
comments,
happened,
but
but like even the idea that like if it did happen, one, it was like to appease SJWs, which is absurd. But then two, that like it just made everything worse. That like having like for example like a black
yeah.
character like just completely destroyed it and ruined the game, and now we can attack SJWs for ruining our video games. Like really,
James Bond.
James Bond?
The James Bond argument. Yeah, people have been like there was a call for Idris
Oh
Elba's
right.
Bond after
Mm-hmm.
Kraig, and everyone's like, Bond's white, you can't do that. And
Like Bond is a fictional
there's a whole
character
argument.
that has had
Bond's a
multiple
fictional character.
actors.
Yeah, he's already had multiple actors, and like, yeah. Anyways, sorry. Um, that just reminded me that like that was a
Yeah,
perfect example
yeah,
of that. People getting their panties in a bunch. That's not even something that happened. That's just something people were talking
right,
about.
right. Yeah, I mean, like I get, we could probably go on, off
We
on
could.
this for a while, but like my,
There is one
oh,
thing
go
I
ahead.
want to kind of, I want to sort of switch the focus just a little bit, like not switch the focus. I want to sort of flip the table
Oh,
here.
okay.
So because yes, now all of that, all of that said, there is another side to this that needs to be acknowledged. But most importantly, before I get into it, I think the most important thing to recognize about these civil issues, these social issues, is that they are significantly more nuanced than literally anybody gives them
Oh
credit
yeah.
for. And the reason that we get into the trouble that we get with them is because we refuse to use the nuance of
Mm-hmm.
it. Because it
You got to make
is.
everything black and white, right?
It's bleeding with nuance, and you want to simplify it to just a one or a two, or a zero and a one, and it's like this is a non-binary issue. There are shades of
Yeah,
gray. This is a
yeah.
grayscale. We
The world is
cannot
gray,
talk
right?
about these kinds of things. Yeah, we cannot talk about these kinds of things in binary terms anymore because there's just far too much, and we keep screwing up the conversation when we switch it from grayscale to binary. So, and it flips on both
Yeah,
sides. So the other day I was reading a article, I think it was out of Polygon. It was a contributor who authored it, so it wasn't like a proper I don't think it was a proper author. If it was still just an opinion
sure.
piece. But it was a gay man who was playing Overwatch, and he had purchased Overwatch specifically because he felt represented by Soldier
Hmm,
76. Since it just came out recently that Soldier 76 was
right.
gay. So he purchased Overwatch to play Soldier 76, and when he got in game, he was called several names, including homophobic slurs, there's no way for the other players to know that he was gay, but just by
Just by playing the
playing
character.
Soldier
Huh.
76, he incurred the wrath of those homophobic
Right.
slurs. And it just so happened that he actually was gay and was playing him because he felt represented by
Mm-hmm.
him. So now he was, duly upset by that. That's fair to not. On one hand, it's fair to not feel good after being called a slur specifically designed
Yeah.
to
To
aim at a
to put it
part of you.
lightly.
Yeah. But what he said afterwards kind of bothered me. He felt like Blizzard wasn't doing enough to protect him from those
Hmm.
things. Blizzard wasn't doing enough to make Overwatch a safe place for people like him to play and feel represented. And I was when I read that part, and this is oversimplifying the article to a degree. I feel like I'm fairly representing it, but I can link it and I can get a link for it for when we put
Uh-huh.
this up on YouTube. And then you guys can read it. And then, anyways, I felt like he was really just like, you're asking too much from Blizzard. It's not Blizzard's job to control their player base. Uh, it
Yeah.
this is online gaming. Online gaming has always been this way.
True.
If you ever played League of Legends and got called that homophobic slur, which happened like every other game for me, I'm not gay. It probably didn't bother me, but if you were gay and you got called that homophobic slur, would you have been bothered by that by playing that game? And if you were, I'm sorry, you might need to get some thicker skin to play online games because this is just a reality to a degree. It's not a good reality,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's fair to fully expect a developer to micromanage the behavior of all players.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's a bit much. That's a bit far
yeah.
into.
I have mixed feelings about that because I do think it is a lot to ask of the developer. I agree, right? It's kind of like if you if you like walked into I don't know, a store or something and like another customer in the store called you all these horrible names and then you got mad at the
Yeah,
owner of the store for it,
it's
like how could you
exactly
let
like
this
yeah.
happen in your store? Now, to be fair, I would hope that maybe that person would get kicked out of the store if they were saying all these like homophobic slurs
Yeah.
to say that. But it might be unreasonable for the store owner to like anticipate that that was going to happen and stop this bad person from ever entering and saying these horrible
Yeah,
things.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so I do get that part. Um, I think the part that I'm not that I have mixed feelings about is that like the this is the way it's always been, and so like maybe we should expect it to keep being that way because I always want to like it's very true, it's always been that way, but maybe this is like the relentless optimist in me, like I kind of
Yeah.
still would want to push back against it. Like, is there any way that we can make it better that doesn't have to keep being this way? Now, how I
That's
don't know.
fair.
And so what I would say,
Yeah.
and again, I haven't read this article, but I would say if someone was going to like push back against Blizzard and say you should do a better job of making sure this doesn't happen, to also maybe try to suggest ways they could do that, because it's a very complicated and difficult problem that a lot of
Yeah.
multiplayer online games and developers have tried to address, and it's obviously still a huge issue. um,
Yeah.
but I guess I kind of like the idea that like maybe there's something that could be done to fix it. Maybe that's super unrealistic. I don't think the problem would ever go away, but if there was a way to improve it, I guess I the optimist in me is like it's not okay. So I don't want to just sit here and be like, well, it sucks and it's horrible, but what are you gonna do? Like
Yeah, no, it's definitely there. Yeah, having a this is how it's been and it's how it always will be attitude is not a great way to do it. And I don't mean to put that
mhm,
off. Like another part of me is like I don't know what kind of measures Blizzard employs in their chat system
yeah,
because I don't play Overwatch on
yeah. You can
PC.
you.
When I did play Overwatch, it was on
Mhm.
console, and like you can report people for offensive language on chats, but they can't monitor. Um, live talk or live
Yeah.
chat for, bad words and stuff. You can report them,
Right.
and if they have enough reports against them, they will take action. But unless there's a physical thing, Xbox can't respond to it,
Mhm.
or a physical chat
Right.
line.
Right.
I don't know what Blizzard does. I don't know if Blizzard has a language filter. I don't know if Blizzard has offensive language bans or anything, which lots of games have offensive language bans. Siege has offensive language bans. League of Legends has offensive language bans. I think even Dota has offensive language bans. So if they don't have that, that seems kind of that's a pretty big oversight. Like, it seems like that's pretty commonplace
Right.
nowadays for PC games to have, a way for people to be punished for using overly offensive
Mhm.
language. If you don't fix it, it's easy. Just do it. Other people have done it. Do it.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like, there is, like, I think it was really the way that they, at the end of the article, were trying. I felt like they were trying to shame Blizzard for basically just not making it a happy, safe place for
Mm.
them. And while you're definitely right, like, there are things that they can do, it's not Blizzard. Like, what I came out of it with was, it's not Blizzard's job to make sure that you you're safe everywhere.
Sure.
Like, you have pillows around you verbally or something. People are mean. People are always going to be mean. And while, yes, society, we can make moves to change that, but when we do make moves, people react in the opposite way as well. There are going to be some people who are like, oh, you're right, I'm being a dick, I need to change this. But then there's also going to be people who are going to double down
Yeah.
and completely just
Well,
ramp
that's
it
what
up.
I mean, that's exactly what's
And
happening with the
that's
diversity thing,
exactly
right?
why I brought this up too, because I think the way he went about it, at the very least, the way he went about it was basically inviting trolls to be like, to double down and go
Mm.
hard at him, and that's something you don't want to do. Uh, is there a way to do it without the trolls doubling down and going harder?
Yeah. It's hard.
But
Yeah.
the other side of this is that there are people out there who basically incite this kind of stuff as well.
Mhm.
And there's got to be a happy medium where we talk about this in a functional way that actually brings about change, because we can't do it when we have people on one hand that are overreacting to every little thing, and then we have people on the other hand who are overreacting to the people overreacting.
True.
It
It's
doesn't
an
work. It
overreaction
turns into,
culture that we kind of live in.
it is, and nothing functional gets changed, nothing functional gets done, and everyone's worse off for it. We really need to change this conversation to become more nuanced and understanding of each other, and yeah,
Yeah.
more nuanced, and try to
Nuance.
understand each other better.
It's true. Yeah. And yeah, and I think it if we actually want to do that, it has to start with actually listening. Um and yeah, I'll have to go and read that article cuz I haven't had a chance to read it. Um
See if I can-
One thing I always think about, I think you may very well be right that maybe the way that the response that he worded was his response might not be advantageous. But I also have no idea what it's like to be like a gay person that experiences
There's also that,
discrimination
yeah.
or slurs or something, like maybe a lot of their life. Um, and that's the thing I keep in mind too sometimes, like if you do see someone that it seems like they might be overreacting to some kind of insult, it's like they might be a little extra sensitive about it for like a really valid reason. And
This is also true.
um and like that which gives you an opportunity to just try to be the kind thing to do in that situation is just try to be sensitive and understanding, even if you don't maybe agree with like whatever the reaction is, that it's like still kind of coming from a pretty valid place. And so just be kind, I guess. Be kind, listen to people, um, and like stop fighting diversity in like video games. Like
Right.
just yeah, to wrap up the whole Apex Legends and diversity conversation, like just stop
So
fighting
dumb.
diversity. If it's in movies, if it's in video games, it's fine. It's okay. It's not actually hurting you. And I'm not even sure who I'm talking to right now. I guess that it would be people who actually kind of buy into the anti SJW like side of it. Like, it is very problematic to believe that art is more pure or better without diversity in it. And that is the inherent undertone of your whole argument. Don't do that. It's okay. Just embrace people of all different types. And you'll be a lot happier, and you might actually enjoy your life and the media you consume a little bit more. And
Play D&D. D&D is a good lesson in
play
diversity.
D&D. It's funny you bring that up because I've been listening to a D&D podcast recently.
To which one? Sorry, you cut out for me.
Yeah, I'm listening to a D&D podcast. It's called Not Another D&D Podcast, I think.
I love non. Okay, I haven't actually ever listened to it.
Oh.
Sorry. I love the people who run it. They're from College Humor, and they're a couple of my favorites.
Oh, I'm totally unfamiliar with the people that run it. At least I think I am. But the podcast is hilarious and it's amazing. And I don't even play D&D, but like this makes me want to play D&D because of like how hilariously fun it is to listen to them.
Mad Pod is great. I can't think of his name right now because I'm exhausted. But the DM, he was a longtime College Humor sketch artist person, writer, and comedian. And he also works with Adam Ruins Everything.
The Adam Ruins Everything guy actually came on as a guest character recently.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
So
I love Adam Conway.
It's been pretty fun.
I love all of the College Humor people. They're so great. You should sorry, I know this is going long. You should watch the Fantasy High D&D game from College Humor.
Okay.
It actually has the DM from NADPOD. Okay. No, it's not. He's not DMing that one. It's a different person. He's in that game.
Yeah.
He's a player in that game, and he's great.
One of the funniest things is that he's the DM in the Not Another D&D podcast, and it's so funny because like at least one of the players is totally new to D&D, and then like the other two aren't. I don't think, but the things they try to pull off in like these scenarios are so ridiculous that like it's just predictably hilarious when the DM is like, so just to recap, you want to try to do this with all of this going on, and then they'll be like, yeah, and he's like, all right, you gotta roll a nat 20 and I'll let you do it or something like that because it's so ridiculous. And then it like and then they'll try the ridiculous thing, it'll hilariously backfire, and all of a sudden they're like surrounded by enemies or something like that, and he's like, what did you expect? Like the thing, it's pretty hilarious. But so there's a fun little recommendation for you guys if you're into listening to podcasts, even if you don't like D&D, because again, I don't even play D&D, although this is actually making me want to play, but it's just so fun to listen to, like, because it's interactive storytelling. And so these players are just telling a hilarious story with these hilarious characters, with some dice involved, essentially. And it's a great listen.
I've watched like probably over 200 hours of Critical Role at this point.
Yeah, I've heard of Critical Role. I haven't seen or heard any of it, but I've heard of them.
It's so good.
They live stream on Twitch and stuff too, I think, right? I always say.
Yeah, they live stream on Twitch and then they put it up on YouTube, and then they also have it in podcast form
cool.
as well. But it's so good. And then they're actually they're making an animated series from their first campaign.
No way. That's awesome.
They broke Kickstarter. Well, they didn't break Kickstarter. They broke a record for TV and video on Kickstarter for getting funded. They put their goal at like 750,000, and within like the first few hours, like within the first day, Kickstarter and their fandom was like, F your extension goals, I forget what they're called, and just knocked them out. They actually had to come up with new stretch goals. Wow. They had to come up with new stretch goals the next day because they just blew them away.
That's awesome.
And they were all just like, oh, I have to deal with this.
That's awesome.
Anyways, play D&D. It'll teach you about diversity, because playing a human over and over and over again as your player character, playing a white human as your player character over and over again, nonetheless, is boring. I'm an Air Genasi monk in my current game that I'm playing.
Wow.
What's that? I don't know. You?
Be whoever you want. That is. Be something different than the norm.
Be a troll.
Be a troll. Be an orc.
You're already one. Be a troll.
And on that note, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah.
It ended up being a long ish cast. Um,
Sorry, not
no,
sorry.
not sorry at all. Great conversations as always. Glad we squeaked this in on a late Sunday night. If you're
Me
a
too.
YouTube viewer slash listener, you'll be hearing this in a day or two. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the few people that tuned in on Twitch. I see you, Bondsworth10. Um,
Stop.
there's a little shout out for you. We will hopefully be back soon. We
Next
apologize
weekend,
again
maybe?
for the long wait, but this has been the EP3 podcast. I am co-host Josh signing off with co-host Kraig. You all have a great night
Yay.
or day, whatever it is when you look at this. See ya.